another conversation on Awaz-e-Haqiqat, which translates to the voice of truth. And depending on whichever part of the world you're listening to me from, today I'm joined by a very special guest. And this is the first time we'll be having two discussions, we'll try to club them into a part of an overall overarching discussion. The first half being dealing with childhood trauma. What is childhood trauma? And obviously my guest will speak a lot about that later. And the second part will be the making of an quotes unquote independent woman. What do we refer to as independent woman? What does the constituent of a strong woman look like? Because my guest is such a woman herself, and I was super inspired by a post she had put up on a ladies group recently, and that's how I thought that, oh, I have to talk to this person on my podcast. So, all right, without further ado, I am super, super honored to be having and to be speaking with Ruchika Garg on my podcast today. And Ruchika is an emotional wellness therapist who helps adults heal from past trauma and emotional burdens. Her work focuses on deep emotional healing and personal empowerment, blending practices like EFT tapping and inner child work to guide her clients through transformative journeys. As a South Asian woman, Ruchika is deeply passionate about addressing the unique cultural dynamics she has faced, particularly around childhood trauma and the expectations placed on women to conform, stay silent, or sacrifice their independence for the sake of tradition. Her mission is to empower individuals to break free from these cultural and emotional constraints, reclaiming their personal power and stepping into their full authenticity. Ruchika's experience with clinical depression and anxiety has helped her develop a close relationship with human emotions. She is highly intuitive and fierce in her work. She has worked with clients from 7 countries for more than 7 years now. And Ruchika is also known as the Bold Buddha on Instagram, where she also shares a personal journey. On that note, Ruchika, very good afternoon, and thank you for coming on the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me here. How are you doing?
Not too bad. And it's absolutely my pleasure that you agreed, because that post that you had put up on that group just blew my mind. And I was like, I have to talk to her. All right. As I mentioned earlier, Ruchika, you are also aware that we'll be breaking this in 2 parts. So my first question and the first few questions will be towards childhood trauma. So the first things first, Ruchika, in very simple words, so that all of us can understand, what is meant by childhood trauma? And once you've kind of seen it, how can you respond in a trauma responsive way?
In really simple words, childhood trauma means something that happens in childhood. Trauma means an event that has happened that's overwhelmed you so much that you are not able to cope with it.
Okay.
It could be violence. It could be an extremely unpredictable or angry parent. It could be a teacher who's yelling at you, or in Asian countries, hitting you. It could be parents hitting you, parents getting divorced, somebody at home is addicted to a substance. When a child is left alone to deal with those overwhelming emotions and therefore cannot cope with them, then what happens is, at the level of the nervous system, the freeze, fight, flight, these responses become embedded to protect your own survival, right? Because there's nothing else to hold on to. So the nervous system goes into these freeze, fight, flight, and there's a couple more responses even later in age, when the same stimulus, same things that happened when you were traumatized as a child happens on the outside even when you grow up.
Right.
So they become your triggers. So this is called being traumatized.
Okay.
Yeah. And the second part of your question was how to respond in a trauma sensitive manner. Is the first thing we need to understand is that trauma and human emotions do not follow the rules of logic. So let's say a 30-year-old man is not able to deal with stress at work. You can't throw logic at this person, especially if you're working in a trauma sensitive way. You can't say that, oh, logically everything is okay, then why are you stressed? Because these questions are not going to help him. You have to have a listening ear, which is extremely compassionate, safe, and non-judgmental, so that the person can allow themselves to bring up whatever has been buried. So these are the basic components of being in a trauma sensitive manner.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruchika. Thank you for setting the tone. You've touched upon this in the first question, but I would really like you to elaborate that what are some of the ways that all the trauma causes that you mentioned that can affect a child's and even an adult's cognitive development?
The first thing that will happen is the cognition that needs to happen in the moment, especially in moments of stress, will get hijacked by emotions.
Right.
So let's say that a regular person who does not have a significant history of trauma is able to deal with stress at work because it's fine, it's okay, we can deal with it. Person B, who has significant amount of trauma, because now what's happening is the emotional resources are being used to keep the person sane. Less emotional resources and less cognitive resources are now available in the first place to deal with stress. So this person is not going to have an easy time dealing with stress. Cognitive development, it's as simple as children getting overwhelmed easily. Memory impairment can happen. I have worked with loads of cases where people, let's say they had experienced significant trauma at the age of 10 to 15 years. They don't have enough memories from that time span. They forget because their system had to repress those memories.
Yeah.
So memory impairment can happen. Lack of decision making can happen. They are very easily on the edge, very easily triggered, very easily overwhelmed. They can go into what we call victim mode very easily. Why is this happening to me? Why me? I don't have the power to deal with it.
Right.
So the sense of practicality is going to be reduced if you have a history of trauma, unless you have worked through it. In simple terms, this is how the cognitive facilities can get hijacked.
Okay, fair enough. But Ruchika, when you speak with an adult client, we are more verbally empowered to put through to you, Ruchika, today I'm stressed or I'm emotionally drained, right? But with a child who does not have that maturity enough, you are an experienced person, you will know. But as a parent, for example, if I'm not a doctor or a therapist as you are, how do I tell that my child is undergoing stress? How can you tell?
The child will give you signs. If the child is not able to verbalize, the child will give you signs.
Okay.
They'll probably look scared. They'll become extreme. You'll call them, you'll feel that they are suddenly becoming attention seekers. They'll become extremely naughty, or they might fall sick again and again.
Okay.
They are asking for help in indirect ways. Okay. Now, what can you do as a parent? A couple of things. At any point of time, you will sense that something is off. Parents have that, right? It's instead of confronting the child, which may scare the child, offer them a safe space and invite them to share what's happening with you. Like, I'm here. You could share them. In today's world, it's very easy to use emoticons.
Yes.
Like, if you had to choose one for yourself, which one would be you today? Or you can ask them to draw, like, how are you feeling? You don't know how to say, no problem, just draw whatever you want to draw. Their drawings will reveal to you their inner world. So if there is a tuning between parent child, the safe space is already established, then it becomes easier. If it's not been established, then it needs to be cultivated, where the parent will have to win the child's trust by being consistently a safe space. And there's another thing that I have seen. In our culture, parents do not apologize to their children.
Yes.
But when a parent offers the child an apology, it is a huge opportunity for the child to trust the parent and to share if something is not feeling okay. Because then they know that they will not be punished for feeling emotions.
Yes.
So these are a couple of things that can be ensured at a very ground level.
Ruchika, you mentioned about having a safe space in the house, which parents can obviously create for the child. But often when we see cases of child abuse, right, by a family member or an uncle or an aunt, and I'm here referring to child abuse from a completely gender neutral perspective. In our culture, we also see that parents find it very hard to accept that, mama, this uncle touched me, or I don't want to go and sit on this auntie's lap. Usually the parents force, nay, better, nothing happens, just go, that's fine, he's your elder. in that case, the safe space has not been given by the parent, but the
Yeah.
child has started experiencing stress and trauma and other things. Where does
Yes.
that child go in that situation?
Nowhere.
But they have to go somewhere. They need that help, right?
They might not have any place to go. This is when this child will start to withdraw,
Mm.
will stop sharing basic difficulties with the parent, because if you couldn't believe that I was struggling in this manner, I
Yeah.
am not trusting you in other struggles of my life.
Mm.
So this child is going to want to spend time alone,
Yes.
is going to, at a young age, and I'm talking about kids who are, say, pre-teen age,
Yeah.
because they don't know how to interact with the outside world as much.
Mm.
They will withdraw.
Okay.
Some of them might completely repress that memory, they might forget.
Mm.
Because when a child is left alone to deal with something as horrible as this, there's a fear of their entire system disintegrating.
Mm.
To
Mm.
avoid the entire system disintegrating, the ego is very smart and decides to forget that whole episode.
Okay. Mm.
There have been cases where a woman, a woman that I know, when she was younger, she was abused by her uncle
Right.
and she forgot about it.
Okay.
And she lived many, many years not knowing what had happened. And when she was in college, she started to get dreams of this uncle.
Mm.
And it was scary as hell for her to even acknowledge that something like this had happened.
Mm.
But then a lot of healing, a lot of therapy had to be done for her to process that information.
Mm.
So the ego will protect you by repressing it so that later, when you have the ability to process that information, the ego will present you that information so that you can process it and put that to bed.
Mm. Mm.
So to answer your question, a lot of children have nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go.
Just
Completely helpless.
listening to that makes me feel for them, man. Honestly, like imagine the child feeling that much of pain, and the parents are pushing you towards it. Like, um, I don't know what to say, but yeah.
Yes.
But
In fact, to add on to this, and I think this is one of the most important things that will
mm.
resonate with people who are listening, helplessness is one emotion. In most of the trauma cases that I have worked with, the core emotion that's the most disturbing, most painful emotion to accept is helplessness.
Mm.
They have felt so helpless at some point of time that in that moment of helplessness, they formed a very strong wall
Yeah. Mm.
with the world because they had nothing, they couldn't do anything better to deal with it.
Mm. Mm.
So, this helplessness is what can crystallize the trauma in your system because what is helplessness telling you? Nobody is going to save me.
Yeah.
It has the power to isolate you, to protect you,
Mm.
but
Mm.
eventually it's going to really, interfere in your life.
Yes. One more
Yeah.
question that's just sprung up in my mind, Ruchika, when I'm hearing you say that, is often when we see these crime documentaries on Netflix, or we hear about, say, about any crime or someone who's been doing something serially, uh, a most generic thought process that comes in, he or she must have come from a broken family. They must have seen abuse. That's what has resulted them into being a quote unquote broken individual. Do you think, in your experience, Ruchika, that's always true?
I would not say that's always true.
Mm.
I would say that's true more often than not. If you watched the series Dahmer,
I was referring to that, yeah.
Dahmer's, I only know the documentary. I don't know
Mm.
his life
Mm.
personally as such,
Yeah.
but his family didn't appear to be a broken family as such. There was just a weird sense of curiosity to understand what the inside of a human body,
Mm.
what the inside of an animal body looks like.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that some sort of a wiring has to go off for a person to go to that extent.
Mm.
People who are molested at young age
Mm.
and have absolutely nowhere to go,
Mm.
they are more likely to become criminals who molest others.
Mm.
In Now, this is something that might trigger the viewers, but I'm not defending them.
Yeah.
But in my attempt to understand what could be happening with them, It's almost like, let's say I was molested, so I'm going to molest you because I want you to feel the pain that I felt, because no one is able to do that for me. It's a very indirect way of gaining empathy, and it's extremely heinous and criminal.
It is.
So I would believe that most often than not, they have to have had something happen to them for them to become criminals.
Yes. And again, for the listeners, we are not promoting any such activity.
Absolutely.
We are just trying to understand the psyche and what might have happened to them as a child, what trauma they would have gone through. We are not promoting
Yes.
any such thing. All right. From that comes into the next segue, Ruchika, is when an adult has gone through certain kind of trauma in their childhood, do these adults develop any kind of attachment or relationship issues as they age?
They do. They do. I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say, let's talk about a girl.
Sure.
It could be the same thing could be happening to a boy as well. Let's say a girl grows up with a father who is not emotionally available to her.
Right.
Okay. So let's say she's 3 years old and she made a drawing and she said, Papa, how is it? And it's like, what will you do with it? What's the use? Now, maybe the father is just being himself, but the child is going to make a meaning out of it that, oh, this wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Let me do something better. So her need for validation is not being met. If this happens consistently, she might feel that her sense of self-worth is determined by what she does. She might become a very high achiever because all that she wants from her dad is to let her know that you are good. And let's say it still doesn't happen because the father does not know how to express. That's the father's world. But in the child's world, the child is feeling the stress to achieve because only then Papa will love me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this child, this girl grows up to be a woman who, let's say, marries a man who is not vocal. And she's wearing a nice sari and she says, how am I looking? He's like, yeah, you're looking fine. Logically, if you assess the situation, you would say that there's nothing to, there's nothing to take personally here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this woman might actually get triggered because her very deep wound of not getting any validation is triggered.
Yes.
So she might have a heightened emotional response. And this might actually impact the relationship with the husband. And then eventually the husband might complain that you always need appreciation. Like no matter how much appreciation I give, it's never enough for you. This might cause fights and resentments. Okay. Other examples, let's say that a girl or a boy was raised in a family where he was the eldest sibling and he had to be the caretaker for the younger siblings because let's say a parent passed. And because this person took the role of a caregiver from a young age, this is actually one of the cases I've worked with. They became a caregiver at a very young age and everyone highly appreciated them.
Right.
The appreciation that never came before. But that started to come now. So now I'm addicted. Let me take care of you because then I feel loved. If I don't take care of you, there's no appreciation and I just feel I have no worth. When I get married or when I have a partner, I will force you to receive the care that I want to give to you. So if I cook for you, you have to eat it. Otherwise, you are abandoning me. Otherwise, you're not appreciating me. So they can become codependent.
Okay.
So in fact, it's a safe conclusion to make, and this is through my entire experience of private practice. When you have a relationship problem, more often than not, it's always good to look at what happened in your childhood. It always goes back to your childhood.
Speaking of that, Ruchika, for a minute, I'll be the devil's advocate, right? Right now, we have a lot of terms to identify childhood trauma, gaslighting, all of that, right? When you try talking to your parents, because I've had that. I've had my mental health journey. That conversation with my mother was very difficult because there's a generational gap, right? Often the
Yes.
parents will, in our culture, the parents like, oh, we have gone through all this. We were raised like this. Our parents hit us. We have become normal adults. What's wrong with you guys? So in that context, how do you bridge that generational gap, and how can you have that conversation with generations on the same table?
Okay. This is a tough one. Um, it's not going to be easy
Mm,
because you are presenting to them a version of truth
mm,
that they have never had to look at or they've never looked at.
okay.
Their truth is completely different.
Mm,
They might tell us something like, yes, we were raised like that, and that's actually true for them. They were raised like that, and they did not have the space to talk about emotions and trauma
right.
because their parents were too busy earning a living, too busy
Mm,
surviving.
right.
Now the scene is different, so we have room for emotions.
Mm,
One of the things to take care of while having such a conversation with an older
yeah.
generation is I think first you have to build some emotional resource
Mm,
to hold space for them as well.
okay. Mm,
Because trying to enforce your truth on them is not going to help the conversation.
mm,
You have to receive as much as you're trying to convey that information. So you
mm,
have to empathize with them.
okay.
And you have to keep your point in a firm yet compassionate, as much as possible manner.
Right.
One hack that I could suggest is do the work first.
Yeah.
Be on the journey already, because otherwise you could be deeply triggered when they invalidate
Oh,
you,
yeah, yeah. Mm,
which they probably will. But
yes.
if you've done some part of the work, it becomes a little bit easier to
Mm,
hold space for yourself in that moment.
all right. Thank you.
And every family is different.
Yes.
So it's really trial and error.
Mm,
But a lot of times I've seen a lot of people whose families are not willing to understand their journey.
mm,
They have to make peace with their own journey. They have to eventually make peace with the fact that their families are not going to understand their journeys. So, to actually make peace with something as brutal as this, you have to completely work on letting go of the need to even be understood.
that must be
This
hard.
is the deepest, it's extremely hard.
Mm,
It needs you to grieve a lot, to
mm,
rip your heart open. But
mm,
then if you want to go to that level of peace, you have to do that much work.
very hard. The more I hear, it's like very, very hard. I wish the best for people who have to go through that. But Ruchika, moving on, you've also worked with PTSD and anxiety. So if someone is struggling with PTSD and depression, how do you determine where to start with that? I wouldn't say treatment, but where to start working with that individual. And before you start, Ruchika, for my listeners, this might get a little sensitive because we are talking about depression and PTSD. So if you want to step out from the conversation and take care of your mental health, please do so. And you can always return later when you feel like. All right. Sorry, Ruchika. Go.
The first thing,
Mm,
the very first thing is to help them
mm,
hold space for the emotions that they are currently experiencing.
mm,
Because when they start therapy, the emotions are still going to be present for some time.
mm,
And with time, they will dissipate, but till that time,
mm.
they will need the tools to handle themselves,
Right.
especially in moments of crisis.
Mm,
This is the very first thing that I discuss with my clients. How to hold space for yourself when you are emotionally feeling low, feeling terrible, and absolutely don't know what to do.
mm,
This is the number one thing. The number two thing is it actually varies from client to client,
mm,
but usually the theme is most of them want to understand why am I feeling all of this?
mm.
Because when they start to understand, oh, I completely go down because this is what I'm feeling. When they're able to make sense of it, they're like, oh, it gives them a sense of control because now they are no longer shooting in the dark. Not just feeling their emotions and not even knowing what's happening. They're feeling their emotions, but now knowing what's happening, it allows them to be more compassionate towards themselves. It's as simple as imagine somebody crying out of overwhelm and this person doesn't know what's happening versus somebody crying because they want to let it out, they know what happened. It's very different. Yeah. So this is what happens then. They want to know what's the reason I'm experiencing this. Once we discover this is why this is happening, then the interventions will differ from therapist to therapist, but I use a lot of EFT tapping in our child work because it helps the emotions. It's like you are directly working with the emotions now. The emotions that had to be buried inside of you, they start to move. And the beauty of the process is you don't let go of the emotion lets go of you. There's no reason for it to exist in your system anymore. So this is the line of work. And towards the end, it's more about now helping them make sense of what do they want to do with their life now. Getting them in a more empowered state so that they are off their feet, they are able to terminate therapy safely, and they can build the courage to live the life that they want. This is how it looks like.
One question that I have with you guys, I have often been told, therapy is why are you taking so much time? Therapy should have helped you way longer. So as you're working day in and day out, do you really think that there is a number to how many therapy sessions you should be taking so that you are truly well and over your state of mind?
No. I have worked with cases where it took them 5 to 6 sessions to, if I had to give a number to how depressed they were feeling, it's a very subjective number. It's not based on a scale. So let's say it went down from 10 on 10 to 5 on 10 in 6 sessions. Those cases exist. Some cases also exist where a very strong sense of phobia was completely gone in one session. There have also been cases with, there's something that's called complex PTSD. PTSD is basically one traumatic event happened, or over a short period of time, something happened, and now you're traumatized. So you are hypervigilant, you are jumpy, it's affecting your thinking, feeling, all of that. Complex CPTSD is you've been exposed to trauma over a prolonged duration for years. Your entire system is hijacked. Okay. When it comes to something like CPTSD, there is no number to the sessions you cannot quantify the sessions because there's so many coping mechanisms this person may have built to stay safe that layer by layer, you cannot justify any number of sessions. So it also, so first of all, it depends on what you are coming to therapy with. It depends on what coping mechanisms you have built. Also depends on what kind of intervention is being used. Some interventions are designed to be slow and gentle. Some interventions are designed to do emotional surgery for those who want that kind of stuff. So it really depends. You cannot put any number to this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruchika. But I'm aware that today we are kind of bringing in two things into one conversation and two very broad things, right? And both are somewhere in the society stigmatized. Like depression is stigmatized. And so is, I'm not saying being an independent woman is stigmatized, but people look at that person in a different lens, right? So moving on from this to that, you have also written about being an independent woman. So I want to know from you, Ruchika, how do you as an individual define an independent and strong woman?
First of all, an independent woman may not always be strong. And a strong woman may not always be independent. So I want to, first of all, break the clubbing of these. An independent woman might choose to not be strong in a moment that she chooses to be vulnerable.
Right.
And her sense of strength may not come from the aspect that I was vulnerable. It's extremely strong and bold to be vulnerable, right? So do you want me? So I'm going to define what an independent woman is.
Sure.
Because there's too many attachments to a strong woman.
Okay.
And it's only going to add to the stigma.
Yeah.
My definition of an independent woman is the one who knows her values, who either knows her worth or is exploring her worth, who is okay to acknowledge her own truth and speak the truth as per situation demands, and who can stand for her and justice if things are not giving her justice.
Very deep, but I agree. I agree with each and every word. But Ruchika, just before that, when you mentioned that an independent woman can also choose to be vulnerable, which is normal, right?
Yes.
But can she
Yes.
afford to be vulnerable?
She has to be vulnerable.
Okay.
Because now this is something that comes from my journey, so I'm the best person to give you that. I've always been independent as a child. Very strong-headed. I've made my own decisions. I've fought for my rights, all of that. There has been a time in my life where I did not become vulnerable because I thought that if I'm vulnerable, I'm going to be weak. I'm going to be perceived in a manner that's going to make me be small. But then I realized that when you are not vulnerable, you are showing the world a mask.
Okay.
You're not showing the world who you really are, which means you don't feel safe enough to drop the mask so that the world can see who you are.
Yeah.
The day you feel safe in being vulnerable. So vulnerable and safety have to come together. Only then you can be that. Now imagine I'm sharing this with you. I'm being vulnerable here. And I don't care if somebody says, oh, she's weak. None of my business, right? But then I'm feeling safe in doing so. So it won't matter to me if this piece of the conversation is interpreted in some other way.
Yeah.
And that's where I win. So only when I am vulnerable, I can feel safe to be myself, and I can show the world who I really am, which means I'm connecting with the world at a very raw, authentic level.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm showing them a mask.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Makes sense. From there, I also have heard and I have been told this, that independent women are hard to deal with. This is the quote I most often come across, especially, unfortunately, from the other gender. Now, why do they think that independent woman is hard to deal with or is intimidating? This is one word I'm honestly tired of hearing. So I need your help to kind of break it down. What goes behind this statement?
Okay. Am I allowed to say something you might not like?
Please do.
All right. Independent women can be hard to deal with. And that's true. Because we do not say something to make things convenient.
Sure.
We say something to share our truth. So if you're asking me to join this job at a paycheck that's not right with me, I'm going to tell you on your face that I'm sorry, I'm not taking this up.
Yeah.
Is it going to make it inconvenient for you? Yes. Am I difficult with you? Yes. But is it wrong to be difficult? No. So are we going to be perceived as difficult? Yes. However, the person who's perceiving an independent woman, or even a man in that case, to be difficult, when that person is just standing for their values, the person who's giving that interpretation, that person needs to be looked at more. Because, oh my God, you are being so upfront with me. It's making me insecure, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to label you as difficult because now it's easy for me.
Yeah.
This is something that's going to be there for some time. The structure of our society is changing,
Mm.
but we will have to deal with it. And a lot of us are already dealing with it, and I think some of us have stopped caring.
Yes, true.
So, yeah.
But I think if I remember correctly, Ruchika, this was what you had put up in your post that we are raising women to be hard and independent, right? But are the men evolving at the same pace? Like, are they really evolved to a stature where they can handle, quotes and quotes, a woman who can stand up for herself?
We are raising women to be independent, not necessarily hard, because hard does not align with being feminine.
Mm, right.
Yeah.
Mm,
The first part. The second part is, are men catching up? Some of them are.
mm,
It all depends on how they were raised.
mm,
If a man is being raised by an independent woman,
mm.
it's going to be different by a man who's going to be raised by a woman who's taken herself as a victim. It's going to be completely different.
Mm.
Are men going to catch up? Do they want to catch up? I think yes.
Okay.
Quite a lot of them.
Mm,
They are evolving too. And I think it needs time
mm,
and a lot of effort
mm.
by their parents in raising them so they are prepared to receive strong women in the future.
Yeah.
Currently, I would not give you a white or black answer because it's extremely gray right now.
Mm, mm.
My hope and my prayer is we are moving more towards,
Yeah,
you know,
I hope for the
more
same.
space for people like us.
Yeah. And in this regard, I really like every time I have this conversation, some or the other man will come up to me and say, "Oh, Chris, you're always talking about women's issues." So I really would like to highlight that we are here to talk about men's issues as well, but just not to have them piggybacking on women's issues because both are very separate lines of conversation. So if a man is hearing us, we are not against you. Please feel free to come to us. We'll be more than
No, no,
happy.
we are not against you. We want to cooperate with you,
Absolutely.
not at the cost of our own peace, but
Yeah, yes. But people think that if you are a feminist, that means you hate men, which is so not true. We don't hate men.
a lot of women, this
Mm.
is actually not the fault of men. A lot of women have portrayed feminism as being anti-men.
Okay. Fair enough. Then yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Um, the next question is kind of something that I wanted to ask you also is, do men really get intimidated if they're around a strong-headed woman? Like what emotion plays in their head?
A man
Mm.
whose self-esteem and sense of self
Mm.
does not feel threatened by the presence of a strong woman,
Mm.
that man is never going to be intimidated.
Okay.
For example, a very cliche example, let's say Amitabh Bachchan.
Mm.
A strong, independent woman goes in front of Amitabh Bachchan, he's not going to be intimidated, probably,
Mm.
because he himself has a strong personality. He's very secure in his masculine.
Mm.
Okay. But when a man has some insecurity inside, and I'm not just saying man, you could reverse, it
Yeah.
applies either ways.
Yeah.
Okay. When a man has some insecurity inside,
Mm.
and therefore has probably an unconscious need for the other gender to feel smaller so that they can feel secure,
Mm.
they are going to feel intimidated.
Okay.
So let's say that I'm a man, you're a woman,
Mm.
and I'm your manager.
Mm.
You said something on my face that I don't agree with what you said in today's meeting. Now, this is very grassroots level, and I want the audience to listen to this part
So,
very carefully. If your statement made me feel less of myself, which means I've already taken it personally.
yeah.
Now I'm going to get defensive.
Mm.
Now I'm going to get intimidated. I might not show it, but I might feel it.
Mm.
However, if I don't take what you said personally and I don't attach any meaning to it, I would ask you, okay, tell me more. Thank you for giving me the feedback. I love that you're so vocal.
Mm.
No intimidation. No one's getting intimidated here. So it's all about your individual personality.
Right.
How much are you able to hold space for something that's standing in their own value? Then you are not intimidated.
What is the solution to this issue from a woman's perspective? If you are a woman who has her own voice, who knows what she's saying is right, and as a man, I'm telling you, oh Ruchika, you're very strong-headed, opinionated, you're intimidating me. How should a woman react in that? Like you like me, you want this to proceed, but you're getting this feedback or whatever you call it. What is the solution? How does the woman proceed there?
To this feedback, any strong, independent woman, at least like me, would say, thank you for sharing your opinion. That's it. Because sure, you are sharing your truth.
Right.
And thank you for sharing your truth. It does not threaten me. I will continue to be
myself
in my truth.
Right. One last question, and I'm mindful of time, Ruchika, is, I know the society is evolving, but there is a lot of gender bias at workplace, in relationships. The equity is still to get there. How can we close this gap? And how can we be allies for one another, gender-wise?
The gap can only be closed when both the genders have equal voice.
Yes.
When they are equally empathized with. Both. Men have their own struggles. Women have their own struggles. The gap can only completely close when both feel justice was given to them. Now, this would probably need a revamping of the entire structure, which is happening. Things are extremely dynamic now, and maybe 50 years down the line, the way multinationals function, the way companies function is going to be completely different. It needs to be fair and square for both. Only then you can close the gender gap, because everybody is happy doing what they want then.
Yeah, true. Ruchika, you deal with these complex things day in and day out, right? On a difficult day or on a daily basis, how do you take care of your mental health?
Good question, and thank you for asking. I'm glad you're acknowledging the humanness of my profession as well. A couple of things that professionals do to take care of themselves. I like to journal what I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm feeling overwhelming emotions, and I may or may not have somebody who can hold space for me. Journaling helps. I myself do a lot of EFT tapping because it helps me ground my energy. It helps me ground my emotions. And then there are a lot of things you can do in your routine. But there's number one thing that you have to do in this profession is self-care. Give time to yourself.
Yeah.
Be a very selfish person in that zone and do something that replenishes yourself. Okay. Because it's such a giving profession that otherwise you'll be completely depleted.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't drain from an empty cup, is what we say here.
Absolutely.
The last question, Ruchika, is we have dealt with two very complex overarching issues. One is childhood trauma, anxiety, and the other is somewhat of an independent woman. Again, the whole complexity around that. What would be your message to our listeners on both of these issues in the society?
The first message would be, it can be a tough world as a child, as a man, as a woman. Then the best thing you can do for yourself is find a safe space.
Okay.
If it wasn't given to you, it's unfortunate. But if you're listening, which means you're an adult, do something to find a safe space. Connect with another human being who you can trust. Because that is going to give your system a lot of reassurance that you need. Either if you're struggling with an issue, being an independent woman, or dealing with trauma, You need a safe space anyway. This is my core message.
Thank you, Ruchika. And if listeners were to look you up on social media, or if anyone wants to get in touch, how can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, the bold Buddha, the dot bold dot Buddha. That's where you can find me. And if you are a therapist listening to this podcast, I also have a vertical where I work with empowering therapists. Then you can find me on LinkedIn, the bold Buddha.
On that note, thank you, Ruchika. Some very wise words were heard from you on two very, very important topics. Although I really feel that both of the topics can't have just a one-off conversation. We need to be periodically talking about these things. So maybe in the future, we can have part two at a convenient time. But for today, thank you so much for being here. And to my listeners, if you've heard me for the first time, I am hopeful that you had a lot to take away from Ruchika's words, her experience, and her journey. Whatever she has said holds true and has a lot of significance based on how the society is growing and evolving. We don't favor any activity that harms anyone. We were just trying to understand the psychology. And if you've heard me for a while, I hope that you like the content that is being put on the table. If you've got any thoughts or feedback, please write to me at awaz-e-haqiqat@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as Awaz-e-Haqiqat. I would love to read your thoughts, feedback, or comment, anything. On that note, Ruchika, thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.